Hello everybody, Mariah here again. This is page 55 inking, and as my familiar people will know, I do 2 pages simultaneously each week. So I do my planning for 2 pages at the same time, I do my figure drawings for the same pages, and then I do the inking like back to back, and then I'll color them at the same time. And so with page 55, it is paired with page 54, which was the last video. So if you missed the last video, some of this might be a little bit confusing. So the last video is on my Patreon account. It should be free for the public still, for everybody to see it. And yeah. So as you can see with this video, some of it is slower than the rest. Right now, I'm inking a Kiyuki statue. I think it's like 8 times speed, something like that. It's slowed down compared to the rest of it. The rest of it's going to be 20 times normal speed. But I wanted you to actually see my brush moving, so I slowed this one down. Yeah. So the idea behind the statue is that it was created by somebody who knew Kiyuki in the past, was used to seeing his face, but statues usually are idealized, so this might be a little bit more softer than he really actually looks. Plus, with it being a statue, I was aware of things like his nostrils, for example, aren't really nostrils. They're shallow. They're kind of dug out, but they're shallow. That's why I didn't black it out. That's why it's got the little hatching marks in there, because they'd just be a really shallow shadow. Same thing with his jaw. Instead of having one line for his jaw right beneath his ear, there's 2 lines, and that's because with a statue, you would get a shadow on one surface that's facing one direction and one on the surface that's facing a different direction, so the plane change in there is signified by the thick line and the thin line. I kind of imagined the thin line was more of like a softer shadow, like it was reflecting off of the hair, which is also stone. Well, I say stone, and I might be thinking that it's stone, but it's probably faience, which is F-A-I-E-N-C-E, which is kind of, I'm not entirely sure, like a somewhat like enamel. They it's not a stone per se, it's not a gem or something, but it's like a shiny coating, a hard shell coating. I don't know a whole ton about it other than that a lot of Egyptian art is faience. So normally it would be applied to, what do you call it? A relief carving, I think. What's the opposite of a relief carving? The one that, instead of being an indentation, is comes forward off of the surface. I'll look it up. Later. And so it would be applied to that surface and kind of give it like the look of a jewel, but it's fake. So I think in my mind, the hair would be faience, which is it's a huge surface for faience to actually be applied to. I haven't seen anything with that much on it. Like one of the things you'll see later is a box that has faience applied to the outside as well as gold sheets, and that's based on, like, pretty much verbatim one of the boxes that was found in the tomb of King Tut. And so I can see on there how much faience was applied, and it was not applied in huge areas, pretty much generally speaking, as far as I can tell. So when you've got these big statues, what you would be seeing would be strips of lapis lazuli. Usually you wouldn't see real hair for some reason. Maybe more along the lines of, you see the Neem's headdress, which there's a hint of Neem's headdress that Akiyuki's wearing right now. It's the thing with the stripes on it. But that would be covering the hair usually. So you would see strips of lapis lazuli and maybe gold or faience, but not a huge area. They're just strips. That might be because of the integrity of it. It might crack if it's a huge area. But again, as I'm getting to with this, the idea is that this statue is pretty different from normal Egyptian statues. And the skin, whereas you would see with so I'm going to mix up which one has which. I think it's Sekemre Wajka Sobekemsaf the First has his Ka statue, which would come back to life after, if his body was destroyed, that would be the vessel that his soul would come back to life in the afterlife, and that would be what he would inhabit and walk around in. If his real body was somehow mis-mummified or something, that would have been red granite with black specks. And I think it's like Senusret the Third. His statue is black granite with red specks, because in Egypt black represented fertility and red represented the desert to the west, which also was the resting place of Osiris and the afterlife itself. So having a mix of this life and the next life was significant. Anyways, the coloring of Akiyuki's statue is unnatural for the most part. I have seen blue faience applied to, or maybe just paint. Might have been just a good paint job to the skin of, like, maybe royals but not pharaohs on the face plates of their sarcophagi. I've seen that. I might include a picture of it. I probably should. But I've never seen them use blue stone. So what I wound up doing with the coloring of this page is Akiyuki's Ka statue and sarcophagi are somehow the same situation, which did not happen. That should be like a red flag to anybody who knows anything about Egypt and ancient Egypt. Like, it does, his sarcophagus up there does look like a Ka statue got, like, welded onto a sarcophagus, which is strange. And I painted it with blue so that it looks like a blue granite. So, ooh, like, what's going on with that? Why would they do that? You know, it was an honor to have been represented in the style of the first pharaohs, you know, the old kingdom. Like, they were still trying to replicate that in, like, Ptolemaic and post-Ptolemaic, like, you don't call that ancient Egypt anymore because of how different it was. It was so Romanized once you get further and further into the AD, or what do they call that now? AD, BCE, CE. Oh, CE. which is current era, which is more, it's not the Christian way of saying after death. It's the common era, which would be more appropriate for all the religions of the world. Nobody's getting left out then. So, CE. What was I saying though about it? So they were still trying to replicate old mummification styles and old burial styles and everything for people well into the AD. They were still trying to do stuff that people did 3,000 years plus before, because it was the way of the gods, essentially. You know, the pharaoh was trying to emulate Horus, and then trying to retrace the steps of Osiris, essentially, I guess, once he died. So why would you stray from that? Well, one of the questions I want people to be thinking about. So many questions. Alright. So what I just did was the window in the background. This page 55, is taking place simultaneously with page 54, which is Caroline's carrying Akiki's mummy out of the Almatev estate. And this is happening simultaneously, so it is nighttime. So I just blacked out the window and then put some highlights in it like it's a reflection of the inside of this room. This room, by the way, which has stuff behind glass, and a couch in the distance, and a bookshelf. You might be wondering, what kind of room is this? Well, we come back to it. I guess I can go ahead and let you know it's Lawrence's office. Then why does he get such a fancy office? Why does he have his own private collection in this office? Well, because even though it's modern times, he somehow gets away with having a collection that he's not sharing with the general public. I'm not sure. Like, museums have a surplus all the time. That, like, thousands and thousands of artifacts that are just sitting in the basement, you know, that they haven't put out for display. So I reasoned it out that way, that he's got this private collection. He'll put it up on display whenever they have too much room and not enough displays already in the museum. But a lot of times displays will travel between museums. Like for a time, the burial items of King Tut were on rotation. They were just going around the United States to different museums, and you know, it's a big deal whenever a rotating or traveling exhibit comes through. So you want to get your museum's normal stuff out of the way. Make room for the new exciting stuff. You know, maybe you'll attract new patrons to your museum doing that. And then, you know, you've got stuff in the basement. So maybe he's just, you know, keeping this stuff. It's not like it's completely blocked off to the world and people can come visit him in his office. Oh, the earrings I just did were, like, slightly modified from King Tut, from his possessions as well. You know, I did that a lot because, like I was saying before, regardless of what time period you're looking at in ancient Egypt, they were always pretty much emulating the old styles. So it's pretty safe, other than if you're looking at stuff like lamps and writing technology. Like if you're looking at just symbolism, it pretty much stays the same from the early stages to the very late stages. So I have a book with all that stuff in it, all of the things that he was buried with, King Tut, and I just reference that all the time. I've also got I forgot what it's called. It's like an art, a book of the art, evolution of art and symbolism in ancient Egypt by Gay Robbins. Gay Robbins is a fantastic researcher or book writer or all of the above. Whenever I was doing my papers for school, like if I saw her name on a book or like even in a section of a book, I was like, oh yes, let me read this. Whatever she's got to say, I'm in on it. I'm here for this. I think clothing is actually one of her specialties. I think so. Because I kept finding her when I was looking at clothing. Yeah. Yay, look at that. So it looks like I'm done. Thank you guys for listening. I hope I'll see you for the next video. Check out these two guys side by side though. You see how they're kind of balanced? That's on purpose. Hint, hint. Alright, thank you. And I'll see you next time. Bye!